Hey folks, Mike again. Thanks for tuning in. So today it's a very special video. First and foremost, I want to celebrate a little bit my threshold that I just passed, the 5,000 subscribers, which is huge for me. I know it's not that big in YouTube land, but for me it's still incredible to reach so many people. So thanks everyone to subscribe to my channel. And there was a second milestone that I just reached. I think was the 1 million views overall. So 1 million times my videos have been clicked, which is even more incredible when I think about it. So thanks again for everyone or to every one of you who just watched my videos, whether you like them or not. When I started, I couldn't believe that I ever reached one at all. So I have fun doing this and I will continue doing this. So today I'm going to talk about a mix that I just finished. The song is called Long Way Home from an artist called David Tayo. He's an American singer-songwriter, producer, mixing engineer. And he just announced a mix contest that everyone could participate. And usually I don't participate in stuff like that at all for several reasons. But I just listened to this song. I knew David already because I heard some of the songs in the past, and he's an incredible musician. I really like his music and the way how he composes and arranges his songs. So I gave this song a try, and the moment I heard it, it really captured me right from the heart, because the story of the song, the lyrics are so touching, and it's about losing someone someone important in your life. And I remember, maybe I told already that I lost my father 5 years ago due to cancer. He was just 59 years old, and it took me almost 1 year to get over it. I remember like spending tons and tons of hours in the hospital to visit him, and we always tried and hoped that he will get over it and beat the cancer, but unfortunately he passed away that same year. And when I heard the lyrics and the song of David, I remembered all those times 5 years ago. So the song touched me. It's a beautiful song. So I thought I gave it a try to mix it on my own. And today I want to use the opportunity of this video to not only show you my mix, start to finish, but talk about some techniques that I used here in this song and why I think that those techniques are, let's say, useful, or why I choose them for that particular mix. So I hope you like it, and let's dive in. So here's my mix session, but before we start into diving in the details, I'd say let's listen to the whole full mix, which is of course brought to a decent and healthy level. So I just made a little video. I will black out the screen so you can concentrate on just the song, edit the lyrics to follow along. So this is David Tayo, Long Way Home, mixed by me.
Chances ain't good, but you're smiling. If I had your strength, maybe I'd see the lining. It takes all I have just to hang on. And I've lost count of these trips we've made, and I hate that the doctors all know my first name, but they're buying time for me with you, so I hang on. Well, I never dreamed that a car ride with you is something I'd give it all up just to do again. So we'll take the long way home, and baby, we'll take it slow. Even if all I'm buying is 5 more minutes with you, we'll take the long way home. I can't stand to let you go. If these miles together lead to the end of our road, I'm taking the long way home. The moment is here and the chances look good, and the pain of recovery is well understood, and the life we'll live and the love we'll give is on the other side. But as he approached, I could read in his eyes, confused and defeated, his eyes couldn't lie. He said, I'm sorry, man, I don't know how to tell you. Well, I never dreamed that a car ride with you is something I'd give it all up just to do again. So we'll take the long way home, and baby, we'll take it slow, even if all I'm buying is 5 more minutes with you. We'll take the long way home. I can't stand to let you go. If these miles together lead to the end of our road, I'm taking the long way home. Take the long way home, and baby, we'll take it slow, even if all I'm buying is 5 more minutes with you. We'll take the long way home. I can't stand to let you go. If these miles together lead to the end of our road, I'm taking the long way home. I'm taking the long way home. I'm taking the long way home.
What a beautiful song, isn't it? So before we start, I just wanted to show you how we started. So this is the rough mix or the raw mix. All the tracks that how we started and how the tracks came to me have been provided by David. So this is the raw mix from Long Way Home.
Chances ain't good, but you're smiling. If I had your strength, maybe.
So you see, and this is what I always try to emphasize when I work with musicians, it's all about the recording. If the recording is bad, if the song is bad, if the arrangement is bad, there's almost nothing you can do in the mix, or hardly anything you can do in the mix. So it's all about the song, and the song is beautiful, so it was quite easy for me to work on that. I will link that is in the description box, or maybe in the top corner here right now, the original mix that Dave mixed his own song, and you will hear there are slightly differences. He concentrated more to bring out the vocals and the drums even more, so vocals and drums are really shining in his mix, which is a common technique, especially used in a country-based song like this is. I try to, let's say, achieve a different approach. I wanted to bring the whole song more together, though I like his idea to bring out the drums, especially in a ballad like this. He has a huge reverb that he used. So Without going into every single detail here, you see I have quite a lot of tracks, which looks more than it basically is, because some of the tracks I use here are just summing buses and effects I use. So over the time, I developed this mixing template for me, which works for me, which almost fits for every single song I mix on. So here on the left side, you see in the end it's 6 channels, but basically it's just 4 of them, which is all vocals, all music, all bass, and all drums. So at the end of the day, everything I do on the particular tracks are summed up in those 4 different tracks, which makes it easy for me to control the levels between the parts, because vocals need to be treated separately as the drums are. The bass, because if you have too much low end, I want to control the bass separately. And all music is usually everything but the vocals, bass and drums. Usually keys, strings, guitars, electric and acoustic. So those are the 4 elements. 2 or 3 topics I want to talk about in this particular mix, which you just heard, is I wanted to create an atmosphere, as I said, to bring the mix together, to help some certain parts or some phrases, some fills on the drums, some words of the singer to come out in a particular part of the song. A mix is never static, so volume automation or automation of effects is very critical to a good mix, which usually happens in the end once you have a good mix established. And every time you see those green color here behind the tracks, for all of you who are not familiar with automation, every time you see those green colors here, especially in Reaper here, which I use SADLW, you know that there was some volume automation happening. And usually what I do is, because I just have one fader with my trusty PreSonus fader port, I will show a picture of the device I use. I play the song start to finish, and then I just grab the fader and write the volume during the song to emphasize certain parts. You can do this when I jump to the track window here. You can do this with your mouse as well, so you can just like create some of those points here to create a volume change during the song. But for me, it feels more natural when I can do this with my fader port, because this is more like a thing that you do in the studio as well, when you have your hand literally on the fader and you can write that motion. So that's what I did. And I will show you just 1 or 2 examples where I did this and why I did this. So for instance, let's listen to the first verse here when the drums is played with the side stick. And the moment then the snare is kicking in, I wanted to bring up especially that snare part. So I increased the level quite a bit. So you see here on the top, during the verse part, it's minus 2.3 dB. And when the snare is kicking in, it's plus 0.1. So it's 2.5 dB, which is quite huge in a mix like that. So let's listen to that. And I want you to listen on the side stick and then on the volume of the snare the moment it kicks in.
Just to hang on, and I've lost count of these trips we've made, and I hate that the doctors all.
This part especially is because the snare, there's not much going on with the other instruments, so by increasing the volume here, you really let the snare drum or the beat here shine. And I can show you what this sounds like when I just bypass the automation here, how this sounds.
So I have just to hang on, and I've lost count of these trips we've made, and
So in this case, the snare sounds equally good, but the side stick is too quiet in volume. So that's the reason I write the automation here of the drums. And you see here in the top, I might highlight this in the video right now, you see that and when I bring it up more, you see I did quite a lot of writes here. And sometimes it's just with a fill or a crash on the beat one, which I want to emphasize. So you see here, for instance, when the volume is jumping quite a bit, and I'm assuming this is a fill. So let's have a quick listen here.
the moment is here.
So it was like this little fill on the rag tom that I just want to emphasize. Or here in the second verse, when the build-up is coming before the heartbeat appears in the song, which is Great effect, by the way, David, if you're watching this, a great idea to enter the heartbeat, especially after those touching lyrics you just wrote for the song. So those little bumps that you see here in the tops are the snare drum, which is always played with an articulated hi-hat. So I just wanted to bring up the snare part here as well. So I just pushed the fader quite a bit, always like half in dB during the part. So let's have a listen.
But as he approached, I could read in his eyes, confused and defeated. His eyes couldn't lie. He said, "I'm sorry, man. I don't know how to tell you."
Amazing effect with the heartbeat. And just one thing, David, I assume you watched this video because you wanted to see it as well. You said in the briefing for the mixing of the song that you don't want anything to be changed here. I have to admit I changed exactly one thing, so maybe I disqualified now for the mix. But in your original, your heartbeat was like those 3 heartbeats. I've copied one part and added 1 heartbeat more because I felt the break between here was too short or too long for just 3 heartbeats. So I want to show you what this means. I just remove this one here. Listen to the section.
And I'm sorry, man. I don't know how to tell you. Well, I never.
So the break here I thought was too long to be quiet, so I thought it felt better when I add a 4th heartbeat, which sounds like this now.
I don't know how to tell you. Well, I never dreamed that it.
So I hope you understand that I changed the mix even though you didn't want to have the mix changed. So that's volume automation. The same for the lead guitar here or for the pedal steel. This is a huge part which cannot be underestimated in a mix, that you create motion and dynamics during a mix because a song is never static. The second thing which is equally important to volume automation is the automation of effects during a song. For instance, here I sent a copy of the lead vocals from David into a plate, a reverb plate. In this case, I'm sending -11 dB, but in certain parts I want to bring up especially that effect even more. So I'm sending more signal to the plate than before, and I think this occurs here in the bridge part when the music is stopping and you just hear David singing. You see this here again. This is the volume of the send volume here, this part here in the top. So let's listen what I do here, and I can bring up this little window here. So you just watch this little bar here, the fader, which will increase a bit during the part when just David is singing, because I want to emphasize this plate effect, this reverb effect even more.
Well, I never dreamed that a car ride with you is something I'd give it all up just to do again. So we'll take the long way home, and baby, we'll take it.
All of those things are subtle things, but they create some excitement to the mix. And the second thing, of course, I did, which is common, that I increased for the outro part or the last part when the song is getting more dense, the reverb of the lead guitar. So the lead guitar is at a good level. Lead guitars usually use a lot of reverb. So I started with -3 dB here on the volume that's sent into the same plate, by the way, as the lead vocal. But when the solo is starting, the plate or the reverb effect is getting more. So let's have a listen on that.
To the end of our road, I'm taking the long way home.
So, of course, the song needs a lot of reverb. And speaking of the delays and reverbs or general effects, this is, let's say, something I've developed over time after working with a lot of songs, is that when I started, I used way too much effects and reverbs and delays. I had a different reverb for the snare and for the tom and for the overheads and for the guitars and for the vocals. Sometimes this can work, but usually you create more problems than you create a good sound. So what I've learned after studying a lot of good mixers over time and experimenting on my own is that this is my mixing template. It always looks the same with those 4 buses here. Usually I have those 4 effects, which I sometimes change due to the song. Sometimes I have 5, 6, but usually I start with 4 different plates or effect sense. It's a plate, a room reverb, a short delay and a longer delay, which in this case is just used by the lead guitar. But those are the 4 effects I always use. And the idea is here not to send the lead vocal and the guitar to a different plate or different room settings. I always send them to the same reverb settings and just adjust the volume that's been sent into those reverb effects. This will help to glue the song more together and to have the perception that the whole band was playing in one room, so your ear is not irritated by hearing different reverbs. There are a lot of songs where you need exactly that, when you want some parts of a song to be stand out more, but usually this is the way how I start. Right from the beginning, I send the vocal and some guitars into the same room and play it just to have a starting point. The only exception in this case were, of course, the drums. The drums, and let me just quickly solo them for a moment, because I know on my channel a lot of people are interested in the drums. So let's jump into the section here when the drums are playing. Let's first have a quick listen. You know, there's this saying which goes for musicians: don't play the instrument, play the song. And I've developed a certain or a similar attitude when it comes to mixing. It's not about mixing a snare drum or a kick drum or an acoustic guitar, it's mixing the song. So usually what I try to avoid almost every time is to solo certain instruments and like tweak half an hour just a snare drum, because no one cares how your snare drum sounds on its own. It's all about how the snare drum or any other instrument sounds in the context of the song. For showcasing purposes right now, I will solo the drums and just show you what I did here. So when I first started, and let me just, because I used 2 samples here, a snare and a kick sample to enhance or augment the existing drums. So let's mute them for now and let's listen how it sounds, just the drums I got from David. So a big effect here, of course, are the reverb stuff added here. So first, I sent the snare drum into this reverb, which is again the Valhalla room, quite big room, 2 seconds. And after that, a reverb with an EQ, which I always use either before or after the reverb to tweak a little bit the settings. There was some ringiness here at 480 Hertz that I just wanted to get rid of. Slightly enhance the low end of the snare drum with this dynamic EQ. Another annoying frequency at 1.4, and bringing down overall the top end a little bit because the snare drum stood out too much for me. And the overheads, which is a common trick, just to send the overheads into a drum verb, because in this song I didn't have any stereo room microphones, so I didn't want to create too much reverb. I just wanted to create more let's say a room sound. And for this I used the trusty Abbey Road plates plugin from Waves, which is great. You can tweak a lot, has a great sound to it. So this is how the drum verb sounds on its own with the overheads. So it's more like a bigger room, a brighter room. So the overheads soloed without the drum, and then the drum verb, and then with the drum verb. And for the samples, Dave, again, he had a little briefing what to do and what not to do with his mix. So he didn't want to replace the drums or anyone who was participating in the context to replace the drums completely. However, drum samples were allowed. So I choose Trigger 2 as a software, drum replacement software from Steven Slate. Some of you might already know. And both for the snare and the kick, just load it up here. I used a preset, and tweaked it, of course, to the needs of the song. But both presets are from the Blackbird expansion from Stephen Slate. It's the Pearl free-floating snare, 8-inch deep, it's a quite fat snare, but I used all the microphones, top, bottom microphone, the overheads, the room microphones, the ambient microphones, so just like, and the same for the kick, so just like enhance the existing drums and mix them slightly under, so I kept the original drums into the track, and you see both samples and this from the snare and the kick both are mixed slightly lower than the original drums, because I didn't want to make them noticeable, but just to enhance the overall drum track. So here are the drum samples just on their own. And when we listen to the drums right now, I think they're still soloed. Let me just check. Yes. So let me now mute them and bring them in so we hear the difference. And again, I didn't do this while I was listening to the drums in solo. I mixed those samples in while I was listening to the whole song. And it's more obvious when I play now the whole song and do the same thing for you. I just mute the samples and bring them in so you hear what I mean.
Count of these trips we've made, and I hate that the doctors all know my first name, but they're buying time for me with you, so I hang on. Well, I never dreamed that a car ride with you is something I'd give it all up just to do again. So we'll take the long way home.
So that was pretty much it. If there was anything more that you would like to see from my mix, I'm happy to use this video again to show you some more things, but this is what I wanted to show you as a conclusion: volume automation and automation of volume sending into certain effects, and what I did here with drum samples for this song. I hope you like my mix. David, if you're still watching, I hope you like my mix too. It was fun mixing this song. What an amazing song, it really touched me. Thanks everyone for watching, guys, and see you next time. Bye bye.